I am constantly blown away by this community, this fiber community, and how they come together at different points in time to do amazing things. One of those amazing things just happened. We will talk about it on the other side. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a Craftivism podcast at the intersection of making things and doing good. My name is Gary. I'm a knitter and a crocheter and a designer, and every couple of weeks I hop on here to show you what I'm up to and to give you a few ideas for how you can take your craft and do some good in the world with it. I hope you've had a fantastic couple of weeks. It has been a whirlwind for me. I should mention up front that you can find me on Instagram as Gary Knits, Gary Rides, and over on Ravelry as Gary Knits and Rides. There's a Ravelry group for this podcast over there as well, so there's a couple different threads going at any given point in time, so go check that out if you have a chance. As I mentioned, it has been a super busy couple of weeks for me. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm almost a week late to getting this out. I'd hoped to do, sorry for the rattling of my paper here. I had hoped to film an episode last week before the big event that I'm going to talk about, and things just got wild and busy, and I didn't get a chance to do it. So I'm doing it now. I have a few hours of alone time here. Well, the dog's under the table, but alone time otherwise in the house. And so I thought I would jump out here and film a quick episode. I have a lot more to talk about than I realized, because as busy as I've been doing other things, I also got a fair amount of knitting accomplished in the last, now I guess almost 3 weeks. So that's probably not a surprise. Just in terms about what has been going on or is about to be going on, and then we'll dig into the big event that I was referencing. Summer's winding down. I love it. I love the end of summer because it's over, and the weather's already gotten cool. We had a hot couple weeks, but it's like now it's like in the 60s, which is pretty much the perfect temperature, I think. We have one more show at the Hollywood Bowl. I got to go to another LA Philharmonic rehearsal last week at the Bowl. It was one of the hotter days, so I had to kind of hug one of the walls there to stay in the shade, but got a fair amount of, I think I was doing crochet that day, a fair amount of crochet done. It was Beethoven's Ninth with Dudamel, which is always a treat to see Dudamel in rehearsal because he's just very, very funny. And they had the LA Master Chorale. I guess I didn't realize or never knew or had forgotten that the Ninth Symphony is a choral piece. So it's the Ode to Joy. Dun, 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 dun is the theme in one of the movements. But there's a big choral piece in the middle, and they were doing Bernstein's Chichester Psalms as the opening piece. So that was kind of lovely to sit outside and listen to people with beautiful voices sing and listen to some great music. But we only have one more of our series Hollywood Bowl shows coming up. We had one show 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, got canceled. We got on the bus, made our picnic, got on the bus, rode all the way down to the Hollywood Bowl, and we didn't even get off the bus. They jump on the bus to tell you how to get back to your bus at the end of the evening, and they give that little spiel, and then we just kind of sat there for a minute, and then someone else jumped on the bus and said, show's been canceled. There was some sort of power outage. It was a really hot night, and I think there's one of these kind of rolling brownout situations that sometimes happen. Anyway, we didn't get to see Vance Joy, which is an artist that we really didn't know that much about anyway, so hopefully they'll reschedule it or give us a refund or something. But we have one more this weekend, final show. It's a night of cumbia, which I know absolutely nothing about, except that it's Colombian music, and these are big orchestras. So should be fun. We're taking some friends of ours from in the neighborhood are going to join us, and it'll be a nice way to toast the end of summer. So the only other thing that's going on shortly, that same day, I'm going to do what they call at my gym, which is Orange Theory, what they call the dry try. It is dry because you're not swimming at all. Try for a triathlon. So there are 3 sections to it. It involves a 2,000 meter row, which is hard enough to do on its own. And then you do 200 body weight exercises. So there's squats, there's a bench jump, push-ups. I can't remember what else. There's I think 6 exercises. Burpees I know are in there that you do 200. They have prescribed numbers of each one that you have to do. 200 of those, and then you end it with a 5K run on the treadmill. They do this at least once a year, maybe twice a year. I've never done it before, but I figured it was a good chance to kind of see where I am and to see how that goes. It's going to take, I don't know, they said 45 to 50 minutes, but I know that's not going to be right for me. I think it's probably going to be closer to like an hour and 15 minutes for me, because I can only a 5K run, is going to be most of a 45 minutes for me anyway. So we'll see. So I may be sleeping during the night of Cumbia at the Hollywood Bowl, but we'll see. So I have referenced a couple times now the event that has taken up a lot of my time over the past couple weeks, but totally worth it, was the Makers for Kamala live stream. I had talked about it on the last episodes that we were in the knee deep in the planning of it. It happened last Saturday, the 15th. It went for about 2 hours, which was a little bit longer than we had expected, but I think that everyone had a great time. There were no big snafus. It was 22 speakers. We had a host, Dana Williams-Johnson was the host, and then we had speakers from the knitting world, from the crochet world, from the quilting world, illustrators, B.D. Wong, who's a Tony Award-winning actor, who's also a knitter. He was there. It was just a really Clara Parks writer, a couple of authors, Ann Hood. It was just a really inspirational evening to hear everyone sort of talk about why this election is so important. Everyone had different perspectives on it, had different ideas of what we could be doing to help push the ball forward, to help get the Harris-Walz ticket into the White House, to help win down ballot races so that when they do get to the White House, we have a Senate and a House, hopefully, that will allow them to get some work done, that we won't end up in a political stalemate where nothing can happen because the extremists from the Republican Party don't want anything to happen, as long as there's a Democrat in the White House. So it was a really fantastic evening. Primarily was done for a fundraiser, but we also wanted to give people resources and tools of other things that they could be doing. And we were completely blown away. So there were probably 14 or so of us that were involved in the organizing of it. A couple folks here in LA had sort of built this little group, and then they reached out to a bunch of other people, myself included, Adela and Jimmy from Lola Bean, Gigi from Gigi Made It, Anne and Kay from Modern Daily Knitting on the knitting side. There was a guy who's a prop maker. It was a really eclectic group of organizers, but we worked really well together and ended up pulling this thing off, even though it felt at times like we were building the plane as we were in midair. So it was streamed on YouTube. You can find the stream. I will link the stream down below. We had 7,000 plus people RSVP for the event. During the event, I think they said there was over 5,000 unique viewers during the event. And so that was amazing. We kind of hoped to get to 10,000, but This was our first time doing it, and so you never really know how that's going to go. But in terms of the fundraising, we were completely floored. So the fundraising link, which I will also drop down below, is still open, and I think it's going to stay open through the election. So if you are planning to make a donation to the Harris campaign, it would be really cool if you're a maker to make it through the Maker for Kamala link. There's no prize for us, but it does give us sort of bragging rights that we were able to raise X amount of money. So right now, as of this morning, this is Wednesday the 18th, we are at or near $127,000. We hit $120,000 during the live stream. In fact, it was just at the very end. BD Wong was the last guest, and I can't remember. We were at 119, 118, something like that. And he's like, I'm going to keep talking until we get this to 120. And sure enough, during his remarks, we pushed it over the finish line there. So we kept going. So we've raised another $7,000 since the event aired. So I know a lot of people couldn't make it for those random 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon, evening. The replay is available. The link for donations is still open. So go check it out. I actually want to go back and rewatch it because I was so busy during the event. I was kind of moderating in the chat in YouTube, as well as I was sort of the speaker liaison for the event. So as we recruited and got the speakers, I was the point of contact to say, okay, this is the run of show. This is when you're going to speak. Please log in here, a few minutes beforehand. If you have any questions the day of, reach out to me. So there were some of those questions coming in. So it was playing in the background, but I was working the whole time, so I missed some of the details of the comments. So I definitely want to go back and watch it. But the feedback has been tremendous from the community. So if you tuned in, thank you so much. Again, we were blown away by the reception. I know there have been bigger events like this, bigger Zooms that have gone on, that the white dudes for Harris and the Win with Black Women one have been gigantic. But I feel like for a niche little community, we really pulled more than our weight in terms of what we were able to get done. So thank you again. It was a tremendous event, and I don't know what's going to happen going forward. We had some talk about maybe trying to do something else. We shall see. I think the organizers all needed a little bit of break because it felt like we were sprinting for about 5 weeks to get this pulled off. But we now have a presence on Instagram and Facebook and Ravelry for this group. So hopefully we can continue to do that. So that was fantastic, and I'm glad that it's over in terms of freeing up some time for me to get back to my making and to do some other things, some chores that got neglected around the house that were supposed to be happening. But it was a tremendous success from our perspective. So thank you for that. Let's use that as a segue to move into Craftivism, because there's a lot that came out of that call that I would like to bring to your attention. So one of the speakers on the call is someone that, if you're a longtime viewer of this podcast, you will recognize the name. It is Molly Lee from Optimistic Soap Co. She has just done a tremendous job of taking her love of making soap and turning it into a force for good out there. She's raised a ton of money for LGBTQ plus organizations, the Trevor Project, some local trans organizations where she is up in, I believe, in Portland. Reproductive rights. She's raised a lot of money for a lot of different things. She has a couple of soaps that I've shown before that are fundraisers for the Harris campaign. Anyway, in addition to all the good that she's doing at Optimistic Soap Co., she is the organizer for the Makers for Harris Instagram account. So our event was Makers for Kamala, but we were working kind of in tandem with her, and she was Makers for Harris. And what that is a repository of any maker across disciplines. So there are definitely yarn dyers over there. There are definitely knitwear designers, quilters, illustrators who are doing something as a fundraiser for the Harris campaign or for some pro-democracy cause. I think most of it's for the Harris campaign, but some people are raising money for other organizations, such as, I know Lola Bean teamed up again with CC's Wool. Her leaf voter suppression behind colorway is going to be available at Rhinebeck, and that is a fundraiser for Fair Fight, Stacey Abrams' organization, and Rock the Vote. So similar types of organizations are also involved over there. But go check out the Makers for Harris feed. There's a lot of really cool items up there that you can purchase, or a pattern that you can purchase, a yarn that you can purchase that will help to continue this fundraising. Just an FYI, because the question had come up when folks from outside of the U.S. were asking could they tune into the live stream. Of course you could watch the live stream. The only thing you cannot do is directly donate to a campaign, but you are free to buy merchandise that is going to be used as a fundraiser for the campaign. And if you would like to support what's going on in the U.S. in this movement, that's one way you can do it. I know that our politics, if you're not a U.S. citizen, our politics have a huge effect and impact on what's going on all over the world. So it does affect everyone around the world, what happens in the U.S. political system, for better or for worse. So go check out Makers for Harris. There's a lot of really cool items over there. A couple that I wanted to highlight just because they are fiber related. Sea Change Fibers. So Sarah at Sea Change Fibers, who is one of my buddies from the Stitch Out Loud collection, she has 2 colorways that she's currently got on pre-order for fundraisers for the Harris campaign. There's a really vibrant blue, and she's offering on a bunch of different bases, including a really cool tweed, which is what I bought, called Unity. And then there is a purple. So the blue is a vibrant blue, but like lean toward purple. And then there's a purple lace weight yarn that she's calling Strength, that goes very well with the Unity colorway. And she's selling both of those. And I think 50% of the proceeds from that, those 2 sales are going to be donated to the Harris Walls campaign. The other one is from a maker called Finch Mob on Instagram. And she has I'll pop a picture of it up here. And hopefully I popped a picture of the Sea Change fiber art as well, even though I didn't say. But she is a yarn dyer and based in Texas, and she has a colorway called Pearls, Chucks, and Zero Fucks. And that is $4 a skein of that is going to be donated to the Harris Walls campaign as well. It's a beautiful kind of like gray and red and white and blue, so very sort of patriotic looking, and really fun, really fun colorway. So go check out that as well from Finch Mob. In terms of just one more that's a fundraiser for the campaign, I haven't seen it over on the Makers for Harris feed yet, but Patty Lyons, the legendary Patty Lyons, it has a hat called the Slouchy Blue. And she is selling the pattern for that, and 100% of the proceeds, not going to the Harris Walls campaign, sorry, I misspoke. 100% of the proceeds from that pattern sale are going to the Brennan Center for Justice, which is an organization that, among other things that they do, is fight voter suppression, which is a real threat across this country, particularly in swing states that are controlled by Republicans, where they are increasingly trying to make it as difficult to vote as possible, forcing people to stand in long lines, closing down voting locations in predominantly black and brown neighborhoods to make it more difficult for certain populations to vote. So go check out Patty's hat, and that is going to fund the Brennan Center for Justice, which is helping to fight voter suppression. In addition to the Lola Bean and CC's Wool collab, which is also fighting that same fight. I guess I should mention, since this is going to the Harris Walls campaign, so I got a little bit out of order. My patterns are still available. They will always be 100% donated to, these 2 patterns will be 100% donated to the Harris Wells campaign for their re-election campaign when they win. And if I, for some reason, hit the legal limit on what I can donate, as it says in the pattern, I will then donate it to the Senate races that we need to win to help deliver the Senate to future President Harris. So that is the Kamala is Brat dishcloth, which looks pretty good on there. This is the last time you're going to see this, because I'm sending this sample off to a friend of mine who's like, I want that dishcloth and I'll make a donation. He's not a knitter. And then also the Kamala is Brat hat. This was done in Knit Picks. It is duplicate stitch on a very basic pussy hat pattern. I have some more yarn in different colors that I may try to make another one of these, because I'm thinking about, and this gets to my next thing, I'm thinking about submitting this to the Co-Crafting Democracy exhibition. This is 2 professors at the, I think it's the Rochester Institute of Technology, and they've put together this exhibition several times over the years. I think this is the 3rd time it's going to be up at RIT, and they are currently seeking submissions. So if you have made anything, I think it has to have been made in 2024, that has any sort of political angle to it. It does not have to be Kamala Harris related, but anything that has a political sort of message to it, any fiber art. So it could be cross stitch or needlepoint or tatting or crochet or knitting. They're looking for submissions. I think there's a size limit on how big it could be, but they're going to do an exhibit at a museum or gallery there on campus, and they're looking for submissions. I think you have to get it submitted by the 25th of October. The exhibition is going to happen after the election, so it should be kind of interesting. But for all of you who are making your Kamala quilts, making different things that you have found from the Makers for Harris Instagram feed, any of these patterns, definitely submit them. How cool would it be to say you had a piece of your work exhibited in a gallery? So, and I think we want to show the exhibitors and the people who come to see the exhibition just all the things that we did during this election season, and just how tied into politics crafting really is. So all the details for submissions for the Co-Crafting Democracy exhibition are going to be listed down below in the show notes. I should have done this before, but here is a QR code. So if you're not watching this on your mobile device, you can scan that, and that will take you to the show notes. It's going to have all the links to everything that I talk about during this episode. So go check out Co-Crafting Democracy. I think it would be really fun to see all the, I'm not going to make it probably to Rochester to actually see the exhibit, but if you do submit, let me know, because I would love to hear about who got their items picked, and if my Kamala is Brat pussy hat gets in there, I will let you know as well. The last thing I wanted to mention, ongoing until the end of this month, is a collaboration that I'm doing with Friday Morning Charity. They are a group that quarterly picks a charity and does a drive, whether that's blankets or hats or gloves or whatever, for various charities during the year. This fall, they selected Knit the Rainbow and asked if I would help collab with them. I said, absolutely, it's an organization I love, and so that is ongoing. So head over to, link down below, but head over to the Friday Morning Charity Facebook group, or if you are on Ravelry, you can check out my group. There's a thread there for you to show off all the things that you are making for Knit the Rainbow. If you're watching this, I know we're still waiting for an address for Knit the Rainbow. I heard from Austin at Knit the Rainbow. They're going to announce it very, very shortly. I will get that then posted in both the Ravelry group and over in Facebook so that you know where to send things. One thing to note if you are working on things for Friday Morning Charity, hop over to Facebook if it's accessible to you, and just they have a thread there just like asking for a tally of what people have made, because they like to track that. So just jump over there and let them know what you've made for Knit the Rainbow before you ship it off, just so that they can keep track of it. And pay attention. I have had a couple of giveaways in the Facebook group, one in the Ravelry group. I think by the time this gets published, there's going to be another one announced in the Facebook group. All you got to do is post a picture and tell me what you've been working on for Knit the Rainbow. So I think that's it. That was quite a bit for Craftivism this week, but 'tis the season. There's a lot going on politically, and that means, a lot of people are doing some crafting around that, and I just want to, keep giving you ideas on the ways that we can take something that we love and do some good with it in the world. So that's it on Craftivism. Let's get to the actual making. I'm going to turn the page here on my notes. Sorry. Actually have a couple of FOs. I was not really expecting, since we are in full baby blanket sweatshop production mode here, but with the exception of one, which is still pretty portable, the blanket situation has gotten a little more cumbersome, and things aren't really portable as much as they were. So I do like to have, hiccups. I do like to have a couple smaller projects that I can be working on for charity or for whatever, that I can carry with me in the car, on the bus, wherever I'm roaming. But I do have a couple of FOs to show. I think they're all in the hat category, and one that I don't know, partial FO or pieces of whips that are partially done. I don't know what to call it. But the first one that I finished, well, let me do this one first, because I talked about it before and I've shown it before. But we are finally done with my KnitStars project. I have finished my final sample of it. I have gotten the pattern off to the tech editor, got the first round of edits done, and ahead of time. So I think ahead of when KnitStars needed to have it done for the release of the masterclass when that comes out in December. So this is the permission slip stitch mitts and hat. This is the size large, so the hat would be way too big on me. And the gloves fit fine, the mitts fit fine. I mean, I think there's enough stretch in them that a bigger hand would probably be fine. Again, this is a pattern of my own design that I came up with for my KnitStars class. It is made with Biscotte Yarns Bis Sock, which is an 8515 superwash merino and nylon. The main color, the gray, is called Gris. And then there are two colorways of self-striping yarn in the pattern. One is called Community, and the other one is called Cite D'Or. And yeah, it's a really fun, fast, once you get past the ribbing, I will say that. Once you get past the ribbing, it goes really, really fast. All of the testers said that they really had fun with it, and I have seen one of the testers is a woman who is in my local knitting group here. She is a former dyer, so she used to dye self-striping yarn. So she used two of her own colors. It's the first time I've seen it done in colors other than the ones that Biscotte and I came up with for the kits, and I love the way it turned out. So I love she did it with like kind of a cream main color, and then the colors were paler, but really looked really great. So I am looking forward to seeing different people take different colors of self-striping yarn and apply it to the pattern and just see how it turns out. But I am glad to have that put to bed. I just have a little bit more work on some course materials to put together for KnitStars, and then that will be done, and I can sit back and relax and wait for the release of the class. Two other hats that I finished. This one had been sitting on the start of it had been sitting on the needles for a long time, and I'd finished this other hat, and I was like, oh, I should pick that up. And it's worsted weight, so it worked up really, really quickly. I had a ton of fun with it. I'm really getting into cables. So this is the hat called the Aspen's hat. The designer. It's like Kalunda. I will put it down here below. But it is cables. There's a little kind of honeycomby. Well, these are just 1/1 left and right crosses in the thing. But it's a really fun and fast pattern. It only comes in one size. But I think there's enough stretch in there that it's going to fit most adult heads. This is a gift for a friend of mine who lives in San Francisco, who lives right down the street from Firebird Yarns. She had a hat, or lost a hat, or anyway, for some reason needed a hat, or I thought she needed a hat. And so I ran down to Firebird Yarn and picked up this this yarn. It's called Simply Natural by Haiku. It is 40% merino, 40% alpaca, 20% silk. It's a really nice yarn. I think has pretty good stitch definition. A little bit of halo from the alpaca, but not nearly as much as this other alpaca yarn I'm going to show you in a minute, which is really like shedding like my dog sheds a lot. Anyway, Aspen's hat. All I'm waiting for is I want to put a little fur pom-pom on it. I had one that I bought in Quebec when we were traveling this summer, but the snap on it won't completely close on this thick of a fabric, so I think it will work better on like a fingering weight hat. So I'll hold on to that. I ordered another one that's a tie, so hopefully that will be able to be held on, and also give her the option, if she doesn't want a fur pom-pom on the top, to take it off and just wear it as is. The other hat that I finished, and this is going to Knit the Rainbow for the Friday morning charity drive. This is a hat, big day for Aspen. This is called Aspen Glow. That was Aspen's. This is Aspen Glow. In Chroma, Knit Picks Chroma Twist Bulky. It's a easy pattern. I think that I did not make a great choice with the yarn for it. It's slip stitches. You can kind of see it in there, but I think between the marling and the color changes, it just the slip stitch definition, the slip stitch just kind of gets lost in there a little bit. But it was fast, fun knit. I'm working on another. I don't even have it in here because I've really basically just done a few rows of ribbing, but I have another hat, not using this exact colorway, but another Chroma Twist bulky colorway. They must have been on sale because I have a ton of it in my charity knit yarn bag or box tub, whatever, gigantic plastic thing. So there's several skeins of it. So I'm working on another hat that'll probably be done by the time I film them again. So those are the true FOs. As I mentioned, it is full-time baby blanket making around here. Blankets in general, but 2 baby blankets, 1 grown-up blanket, because we have 2 groups of friends, family, having babies that are both due in November. We'll see. I hope I get them finished in time. But the first one I'm doing is a blanket out of this book that my sister-in-law gave me for my birthday, Mix and Match Modern Crochet Blankets by Esme Crick. And I'm doing if I can find it here, not exactly taking, it's basically a stitch dictionary, but she then groups them together and has some samples. So mine's going to be a riff on this one. There's a couple of the patterns in there that I didn't think I wanted to work on, and that I didn't think would be great for a baby. So I think it's 11 strips. You basically work in strips. I'm using the recommended yarn just because she seemed to have a good experience with it. It's the Scapius Color Crafter. And so I'm doing mine in blues and greens. So I think it'll be fun. It's sort of a mix of brights and lighter colors. I finished 3 full, is that right? 4. I finished 4 of the strips. I'll show them here. I don't rip them out. But I finished, so they're all about 40 inches wide. And then I think there's 11 of them. They're varying widths, so it gives it a little, they're not same. This one is called Crunch Stitch. This one took forever. It's because it's all like half double crochets and slip stitches, so it just took forever to get this done. These are taking longer than I had thought. I don't know. It's been a while since I've done a big crochet blanket project, and I just remember my memory of them is they flew by, and it was very, very fast. These are taking a little longer. Part of it is my crochet is not nearly as strong as my knitting. I constantly have to remind myself to count the stitches every few rows, because I am completely prone to adding or taking out stitches. It's always that turning stitch, especially if it's a single chain turn, that gets lost at the corner, and then I end up with a shorter row than I expected. So the second one I've done, this one is kind of a corrugated thing that's done with front posts, back posts, double crochets. This one went pretty quickly, which I liked. This one was really fun. I think that she calls it butterflies, but it's just like a fillet, whatever you call it, crocheted with some skip spaces in there. You're seeing all the colors. I think I've done one strip now in every color, or I'm working on one in every color. This one was really fun. This sort of cabled, I think it's called like Traveling Vine in the book. But this was a really fun one to work on. I love the way that effect. And so I always like to have like 2 of them going at once, so that if I get bored with one of the pattern repeats, I can switch off to another one and I'm still making progress. So the 2 that I'm working on currently are both actually pretty fun. This one is called Giant Baubles, and you can see why. And it's moving pretty quickly, but it's wider, significantly wider than most of the other ones I've worked on. And man, do these baubles take up a ton of yarn. Like I think I'm going to get through this whole skein just on this one strip. So that's the giant baubles. There's another one in the pattern that's also baubles, but contrasting color. So you work the background in one color, and then you do the baubles in a contrasting color. And the last one that I've been working on currently is this one. It's called Jacob's Ladder, and this is giving me flashbacks to the Stephen West MCAL from 2, not the latest one, but the one from the year before, Twist and Turn, which I have PTSD from, but I did not finish it. But the one part that I did enjoy was I think it was the first technique, where you basically you're crocheting these little loops, and then you tuck them into each other to create this. To create the chain going up. So you do that all after the fact. You like make these loops, and then you loop them all together, and then you're going to fasten it down at the end. So I think it's a really cool technique, and it looks really great as well. So I think it'll actually be. Someone was talking in my knitting group that they had made a baby blanket that had a bunch of texture and like baubles in particular, and that the parents always tell them the baby loves that blanket because the baby loves the texture of the bauble. So hopefully this baby will enjoy it as well. So I've done 4, halfway 2 more, so 6. So I'm going to be, once these are done, I'll be over halfway. There's still a fair amount of work to do because you have to join them, put a border around it, and then do some fringe. But I'm feeling pretty good about where we are on that one. Let's just stick with baby blankets. So I cast on, now that I finished my hat and mitt project and got that to the tech editor, I gave myself permission to cast on the second baby blanket. This is cousin-in-law having a baby, and I decided to do, just because I had a hankering to do a brioche project. I know it's a little extra for a baby blanket, but I wanted to knit brioche, and I found the Stephen West Flying Foxtails. So not too far along here. I think about halfway through the first pattern repeat. So it's pretty much, basic brioche with some increases and decreases along the way. And then you create these little fan things where you're basically, turning one stitch into like eight or nine stitches, and then it fans out from there. Fun so far. I've made a couple of mistakes that I had to think back and solve, but so far pretty straightforward. It's not going to be a huge blanket. It's not going to be nearly as big as the modern crochet one. I think this is 36, and I think it's going to be 36 by 40, where that other one is 40 by probably 67. I mean, that's going to be a big blanket. This one's going to be more like a true baby blanket size. But so far so good. I am knitting it up in Magpie Fibers Swanky DK. This is one of their Fiber Society colors. This is color number 34. Showing up, well, I guess that's about right. It's a little lighter than that. It's pale, kind of lavenders and blues and sort of with a gray undertone to it. And then I'm pairing that up with just a basic Cascade 220 superwash in a off-white. I really wanted to work from stash, so I pulled out all the DK yarn that they had and was able to put together this to work. And I think it's perfect for a baby, those pastel colors. And I'm excited for the way that is going, and I think it's going to be a really fun project to work on as well. So, blanket. I have shown this before. I'm having so much fun with this. I know I say it every time, but I am loving working on this Curdock blanket from Carol Feller. I am now officially one full pattern repeat through, and I am just loving how this is turning out. Lots of cables, lots of charts to work from. And you can see maybe you can't see because they're kind of hidden there, but all of the different stitch markers that I've had to employ to keep track of where I am, because as I said before, I think there's 8 different cable charts, and they're repeated, multiple times in different places, but they're of varying heights. So you have a 36 row chart, you have some 8s, some 4s, or maybe some 12s and some 4s in there. So that's created a challenge, but it's just so much fun. I'm so thrilled with how this is turning out. And this is, it's a Plymouth yarn called Quaker something. I'll put it, it's all in the show notes down below. 50-50 alpaca and wool. It is very hairy, very alpaca-y, and there's a fair amount of shedding going on, but it is quite soft and light. It's relatively light for a worsted weight yarn. So one pattern repeat down. I think I was looking yesterday, and I think there's going to be 9. You can just keep going as long as you want, and then there's a moss stitch border around it. So I will probably do the 9 that are prescribed, and then kind of see where I am in terms of yarn, and maybe just keep going. It's not a huge blanket. I think it's 40 by 53 or so is what it's supposed to be. So if I think I probably overbought the yarn, because I always like to be conservative. So if it looks like I'm going to end up with an extra ball yarn, I may just try to do another repeat. I haven't switched out. I've gotten through one full repeat, and I'm down to, I don't know, probably 25, 30 grams maybe. So I could definitely get a full repeat out of out of a skein if I got down to it. So that is the Crochet Blanket by Carol Feller. So much fun if you are at all into cables and you want a really challenging only from like an organization standpoint. There's nothing in it in terms of the cables that are super duper challenging. It's just the keeping track of it that creates the challenge for it. And the system that I've set up seems to be working very, very well. I'm also getting a ton of practice between that and this, the Aspen's hat, getting a ton of practice on cabling without a cable needle. So that's been great, great as well. The last whip that I have been working on, I don't know if I've shown this yet, or maybe I have. These are the minis that I picked up at Flock Fiber Fest in Seattle last month. Rather than buy a bunch of yarn, I don't think I bought any, except for the hat, the Brat Green. I don't think I bought any like full skeins of yarn. I just bought some minis, some from folks that I've worked with before, some that were new to me, and decided to make the Stephen West bubble bandana. And there's a group of us on our Tuesday night Zoom, which you're always welcome to join if you would like. The link is in the show notes, and we'd love to have you. It's a fun group, a little quirky, so don't be afraid. But several of us are working on this. I am the least ahead of any of them. In fact, one of the guys is actually just about finished his, I think. So this is what I've got so far, and I really love the way the colors are working. I wasn't 100% sold on using all 6 of them. I thought one of them might drop out, but I think the order I put them in is fun and works. So I can't remember whose yarn is whose, but I know there's Sea Change Fiber in there. There is Art and Alchemy. There's Explorer Knits. There's M to the Third. There's one called Rainier Roses. I think that's it because a couple of them got 2 colors in there. Three Fates Yarn is in there as well. So it's a pretty straightforward pattern. I love the way that it looks. It's a lot of changing colors. That's my only quibble with this, is like you just can't really get a rhythm, and so it's going to take me forever. This is going to be for sure a 2025 finish, because given all the blankets that I have and some of the things that I want to talk about here in a minute that I want to work on, this is just one where you've also got 6 little balls of yarn. It's living in my that crafty little fox Seattle bag that I got at Flock, which I love. But it's a lot of stuff, like a lot of little bits and bobs of things going around. I've also found it an easy pattern to mess up without giving too much away. There's only one row, so it's like a 6-row repeat, and only one of those do you do anything other than just stockinette. And it's that one row where you do something other than stockinette that I constantly, if I'm not focusing on it, I'll mess up, and then I end up with too many stitches and I have to rip it back out. And because you're constantly changing yarn, you got a lot of ends. I'm trying to weave in Steven, or Fancy Nancy as we call it because of Nancy at Trilogy Yarn, as I go, but it's still going to be a lot of snipping down the road. I mean, I think it could be, like I said, I love the bubbles and the little pattern. I think it could be fun. We've talked about this, to try, maybe try it in a self-striping. Obviously, it's not going to be as uniform in terms of the width of the stripes, or even a gradient to avoid having all of the ends to weave in. But once it's done, I'm going to love it. I'm going to wear it, I know for sure. But it's just the getting there that's the challenge. But that is it in terms of whips and active FOs, except for that charity hat that I mentioned before, but because it's just ribbing and I didn't bother to bring it out here to show. I did want to talk about knitting plans. I like to do this, every half year or so. I like to do it at the beginning of the year to kind of plan out what I'm thinking of. And because I've had all this gift knitting that has had to be done, a lot of the things that I'd hoped to be knitting on during the fall have gotten pushed to the back burner. So I have some socks. I had a shawl that I've been wanting to start for forever. And so those have gotten pushed to the back burner. And then all of a sudden it is Stephen West MCAL season. It is Rhinebeck sweater season if you're going to Rhinebeck. So there are a lot of these sort of fall knitting events that I always want to participate in, but right now I feel like, I don't know what I can actually do. But I'm not going to let that stop me from probably casting on more things before something's finished and just dealing with it as it comes up. So to that end, the Stephen West mystery, the dog is getting up on the chair. Stephen West Mystery Knit Along has been announced. It is Dynamo Go-Go or something like that. I should have probably looked at it before it. And the kits are on sale, and it is set to kick off in early October. I am not participating. I kind of was on the fence, and then when it was announced, and it's a two-color shawl, and he brought out the Starflake as sort of an example of, what, not that it's going to look exactly like that, but that's another one of his two-color shawls. And for whatever reason, that one has just never appealed to me. That was also the one that he sort of held up as sort of a theme when he did the twist and turn shawl 2 years ago, the one that I aborted. So I feel now that kind of pushed me off the fence. It may turn out to be absolutely stunning, in which case it can go in my queue to make at a later date, just because of the stuff that I have going on. And I know with the MCAL, I always, get behind and then feel, not bad, but just I want to stay up. I just said I was not going to work on that, but I have so many Stephen West shawls kitted up, so in Ziploc bags, yarn already picked out in a plastic file box, one of probably a dozen of those file box sizes plastic bins that are in the closet, all kits that I've made up, not kits that I bought, for primarily shawls. There's some other things in there, socks and things like that as well, but mostly shawls. They're probably 60 or more kits of shawls already done in the closet. And so I said, well, rather than, do this thing where I'd have to either go through the stash, and I probably don't have 2 skeins of yarn in colors that would work for a shawl that the sample sort of theme of it's not my favorite, that I would take one of my Stephen West kits and we're going to do a knit along during the MCAL, or we're going to kick it off during the MCAL, and maybe I'll just let mine run through the end of the year so we all have plenty of time. I haven't come up with a great name for it. It's just not the MCAL Stephen West Cal. And so in preparing for today and just the other day, I had a couple minutes and I was like, I really, I want to figure out what I'm going to do for this knit along for the Stephen West shawl. So I went digging through that bin to find out what I had done. So I narrowed it down to 2. I'll show you what I'm thinking, and I think I was leaning one direction, and then I've gone back and pulled the other one out because I was leaning the other one. So the first one, where I thought I was going with this, it's been in the queue forever, is the Pierre. I'll pop a picture of it up. I keep doing that here. And I love the texture, and I love the sample that he shows, and it's sort of this fade. So I originally put these together thinking of this will be a nice sort of blue fade. But as I looked at more, I don't know why I have the hiccups today. As I looked at more of the project pages, and I didn't get the pattern yet to see what the techniques are, but it doesn't look like there's marling, which I think my colors, and I'll show them what now. These are all Lady Di yarn. I think they're all from her like Bridgerton collection. So they're these like, 4 blues. But because it doesn't look like, and this is DK weight, it doesn't look like it's marled. I think it's just going to be like color blocks. And I kind of like the true, like a really, really subtle fade that Stephen has in the sample that he's shown. And so I'm not sure that if it's just these color block stripes, essentially, of these blues, that it's going to be something that I really wear or use. So I kind of sat with these for a couple of days and just decided that I think that these are going to be not going to be a Pierre. I think that I want to use, I like these colors together. And so I need to either find another DK weight shawl project, or something else to use these, but I don't think the Pierre is going to be the best for me use of these colors, because I really would like to get a really subtle fade. I actually think, and I should go back look in there, I think that could be a really cool pattern for a really long gradient. I'd have to see if I could find like a DK weight gradient that has, I don't know what whatever the total yardage is. I don't think it's 4 times 230 or 800 and 920 or whatever that is. But find a DK gradient, because I think it could look really cool in a gradient. It won't have those crisp, changes in color. So I went back to the drawing board a little bit. The one that was in second place. So I've got there's a Vertices Unite in there, a Speckle and Pop in there, painted bricks. Maybe that's actually a real kit. I think I bought that during the pandemic from my local yarn store when she couldn't open her shop and she was just doing a bunch of kits online. But I don't know, there's like 5 or 6 other Stephen West shawls in there. My Twists and Turn, which I ripped out and I added some more colors to it, and that became a Marled Magic is what that one's kitted up to be. But the one that I think I've settled on, and I think I'm going to be very happy with this, is the Botanic shawl. So here's a picture of the Botanic. This is going to be a very subtle version of it. So it's a solid color, main color, and then you use a self-striping yarn as the contrast. So what I've got, and it's, I think, two skeins of each, so 2 solids, 2 of the self-striping is what, at least in the kit, so I'm hoping that's what it calls for. I have this really, really nice denim-y gray blue from Urban Girl Yarns. It's on her Virginia base, and it's called Allentown. So it's kind of this, it's showing up a little darker than it is in real life on the screen, but it's sort of like a faded cadet blue. But yeah, washed out denim, I would say, is a pretty good descriptor of what it is. A little gray on the undertone. And then what I'm going to pair it with is a chroma fingering from Knit Picks. This is the Sandpiper colorway. But you can see definitely has that blue in it, but then it goes to a really pale blue, to a dark gray, and then just a little bit of like a lavender, like a very pale lavender. So I think it's going to be a very subtle, a subtle shawl, but I think the color is going to be great. That denim-y blue is a color that I will wear a lot, and I think that I think it's going to be a fun knit. So I think that's what it's going to be. So let's just say, if you have a fun name for this knit along, I think the only requirements is it has to be a Stephen West pattern. If you want to do the MKAL and join in our fun little casual knit along, there's not going to be tickets or any of that stuff like I've done for fundraisers. It's not going to be a fundraiser for anything. I just don't have the bandwidth right now to think about fundraising. So it's just going to be for fun. I'll start a thread over on the Ravelry group. Tell me what pattern you're thinking of, and if you have a fun, clever name for it. If you have a fun, clever name and I pick your name, then there will be a prize involved. So post your names for this MCAL down below. If I choose one of those, I will send you some yarn as a prize. But we'll say that it will start when the MCAL starts, which I think is like the first Thursday of October, and mine's going to run until the end of the year. So you've got plenty of runway to work on this at your leisure. If you have 17,000 blankets you're working on, then you can work on this as well, and hopefully have a chance to finish it. So that is one of my fall plans. I do want to start, it's not a Rhinebeck sweater because I'm not going to Rhinebeck, but I do want to start my second sweater for myself. It's going to be a cardigan. It's going to be a very basic cardigan. I'm going to take one of the sort of basic cardigan patterns from the Amy Herzog sweater book. I can't remember what it's called, but it's going to be navy blue, and it's going to be a set-in sleeve basic cardigan in probably a fingering or a sport weight. So I definitely want to get that started. In a month or so, I'll get the yarn out and talk a little bit more about what I'm gonna be doing. I would like to wrap up one of these bigger projects before I even start thinking about that, because in addition to the not an MCAL KAL, Amy Sadler from Knitty magazine, who was one of the speakers on the Makers for Kamala live stream, she just announced this week that for the 20th anniversary of the Clapotis pattern, which was, I think, probably one of the biggest successes that Knitty had back in 2004, 2005, whenever that came out. If it's the 20th anniversary, I guess it was probably 2004. They're going to do this Clapotis Fest. I always want to call it Clafouti, which is the dessert, instead of Clapotis, which has something to do with standing waves. So if you haven't been over to the Knitty magazine, they have put it out, the new issue, Deep Fall, I think it is. There's a updated version of the Clapotis pattern. There's also a woman who has designed, sort of inspired by Clapotis, like a infinity scarf version of it. And then there are like 50 indie dyers who have signed up to do prizes for Clapotis Fest. And they've all made their own Clapotis in the yarn that they're giving away. I believe there's a lookbook where you can flip through, and yeah, there's going to be a contest where you submit your photos of your finished object, and you're going to be in the running for one of these like 50 prizes, which is fantastic. It is a pattern that has been in my queue forever. I've never made one. I have 2 kits for it, and so I dug once this came out. I was like, oh man, I've been wanting to do this thing for a long time. This seems like a perfect opportunity to do it. I'm going to do it in the original worsted weight, so it should move relatively quickly, I think, hopefully. Everyone I know who's knit it, says it's a really fun pattern because if you've seen it, here's a picture of it, but it has these long drop stitch sections that are apparently just really, really therapeutic in terms of dropping those stitches and just letting them run. So I grabbed one of the kits, and one of them was they're both Lola Bean Yarn Co. One of them was her Evil Unicorn colorway, which is again very subtle. It's a very dark gray with like little flecks of like purples and reds and stuff like that. But it looks like a kind of a charcoal gray color. I don't have a totally charcoal gray shawl in my wardrobe, so that could be cool. But then I thought I wanted to do something that was a little more pizzazz, more color to it. So the other one that I had kitted up, and which is the one that I thought about originally when I had the idea to do it, is this is the colorway. It is called Wakabi. It is part of the little mini collection that Adela did for Black Panther. And so really autumnal, like olives and browns and blues, and then there's this bright orange in there. So I think this pattern lends itself to like a highly variegated yarn. So I thought this would be a great, and it feels very fall. So I thought that this would be a good thing, a good choice to make the clapotis. See, I always want to say clafouti. Clapotis for clapotis vest from Knitting Magazine. So those three things, the sweater and the two shawls, I think, in addition to the blankets, are going to pretty much occupy me between now and the end of the year. I'd like to get the two baby blankets done as close to the birth of the babies, so sometime in November as possible. The Curdock blanket, which has been a much delayed housewarming gift for a friend, she has a January birthday, so that's kind of my outside limit on when I would want to get it done. I'm having so much fun knitting it, though, that I feel like it's going to probably get done before then, because I really like to work on it. So that is kind of my fall knitting plans. There'll be some socks, there'll be some hats in there as well, but we will alert you to those as they come up. In terms of acquisition, it's been pretty quiet on the yarn front. I did get my the only things I kind of have on the horizon. I did buy some of the Kamala fundraising yarn, so I bought the Pearls, Chucks, and Zero Fox yarn from Finch Mob. I did buy Sea Change Fiber. Those will probably go into the prize pile. I'm not sure yet. Maybe if I get some inspiration to do something with them, I will. I mean, I think that because I got that tweed, which is really, really nice. They'll make a really nice hat for me, so that may be pulled aside for a hat. The only other things I have are my clubs. So I got my this quarter's Magpie Fiber Society. This is on their Swanky sock, which is their MCN sock base. This is Fiber Society number 38. Sort of a creamy off-white with pastels, greens and pinks and blues in there. I got both of is this the speck? I can't remember. I think this is the speckle. Because you get your choice of the speckle or the variegated. Maybe this is variegated. I can't remember. I got two of the same. So I got two skeins of these. And it's nice to have. I have a bunch of the Fiber Society things, and usually I get two of the same, which is nice because there's so many projects that are, shawls and things like that need, two skeins of something. The only other thing that I got, which is not yarn, but ties into the Makers for Kamala event, just randomly happened. Diana Waymar, who is the Tiny Pricks Project on Instagram, her book, Crafting a Better World, just came out this week. And so I got it like the day before the Makers for Kamala event. And this is if you're not following what she's doing, it's amazing. The amount of things that she makes on a daily basis is just fantastic. She got started right after the 2016 election. She took an heirloom or a family heirloom, a needlepoint piece, and stitched on it, "I'm a very stable genius" over these flowers, and then had the idea of documenting Trump's words in needlework, and inspired other people to do the same. Over the last 9 years, it has become this internet phenomenon and became, I think she has thousands and thousands of these things documented, and it became the largest sort of anti-Trump art protest, I think, that has been mounted. She has put, a lot of them are in the book. There's also just a ton of interviews and essays written by everyone from Jamie Lee Curtis to Roseanne Cash to Charlotte Clymer, who's a trans activist. Then there's also some project inspirations from one of the founders of the Pussy Hat Project, Diana herself. And what she's doing now, if you go follow her Instagram, but every single day she's stitching, usually on some vintage handkerchief or doily or something. She's stitching quotes that are in the political news of the day. And she's just prolific. And in fact, during our event, one of the speakers on our event was Joyce Vance, who is a legal analyst on MSNBC. She's a law professor, former federal prosecutor, host of the Sisters-in-Law podcast. But she, during her prepared remarks and conversations with Dana, she said something, and I can't remember what it is right now, but by the time Diana came up, she was one of the final speakers, she'd already stitched Joyce's quote onto like a handkerchief. So she's incredibly prolific, and every day it seems like she's taking something out of the news that someone has said, either one of the candidates or whatever, and she is sort of documenting that through her art. So it's an amazing project that she's done. The pieces are very beautiful because they're usually on these sort of not found objects, but vintage, old, embroidered handkerchiefs or embroidered, like we have dish towels that my grandmother embroidered, and then she'll stitch some quote over that. So it's not huge, it's not a gigantic book, but I'm really impressed with the folks that she got to be a part of it. So if you have a chance to either check it out at your library or grab a copy for yourself, I think it's a fun thing to sit down, and because they're essays, you can just pick one up and read one essay and then come back to it time and time again. So that's the only other acquisition that I had over the last couple weeks. So as I said, I thought it was going to be a bit long. We're on a little bit longer than I usually go, but I hope that you have enjoyed seeing some of the things that I'm working on, some of the contemplations of things that I'm hoping to work on. Please do go watch the recording of the Makers for Kamala event. I promise you're going to walk away inspired by, if not every single one of the speakers, definitely some of them will have something to say that touches you, and give you some great ideas of ways that you can be helping out in the next 50 days. Depending on your perspective, it's only 50 days or less now until the election, or, oh my gosh, we still have 48 more days of this. Regardless, it's going to be here before we know it, and I know there's a ton of enthusiasm out there for the Harris campaign that they have not lost since the beginning. It has always going to be a very tight race. It is going to come down to a few thousand votes across a few states that and bless all of you living in a swing state who are having to endure all of the political advertisement. But it is really going to come down to just a handful of places. So donate if you're able. If you can, do a phone banking shift. If you can do a door knocking shift, all of those things are going to make the difference. You think that when you're in the middle of, and trust me, I know, when you're doing phone banking, when you're doing door knocking, you don't always talk to a lot of people. You get a lot of hang-ups, you get a lot of people who don't pick up their phone. But remember that last election, the 2020 election in Wisconsin, which was a critical state to win for Biden, it came down to an average of 1 or 2 votes per precinct. So if you're doing an hour-long phone bank shift and you only are able to talk to 2 people, those may be the 2 people whose votes are going to make the difference in that precinct. So don't ever feel like you're not achieving anything just because you're not at every single phone call, every single door you knock, getting a response that is a response or the response that you want, because it's really a numbers game, and the more of us that are out there doing it, we're going to find those voters to make the difference. So take that. Please remain engaged with this process. Encourage folks around you who may be hesitant to vote that their vote actually does matter, to vote up and down the ballot, because if we get Kamala into the White House, we really, really need for her to have a Senate and a House that she can work with to pass some of the things that she wants to do and help turn the page and move the country forward. So that's me off my soapbox. Thank you so much for joining me for this. If you've enjoyed this content, Please like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things to help me continue to grow this community and continue to bring ideas for Craftivism to you every couple weeks. I will see you in a couple weeks. Happy knitting, happy crocheting. Talk to you soon.